Indiana Governor-elect Mike Braun is now sharing his vision for Indiana just a day after winning the office over his challenger, Jennifer McCormick.
And he laid out his priorities for the state this morning while speaking with reporters. Jenny Runovich is here with what he plans to tackle in office.
Well, really those kitchen table issues, guys, that he mentioned during the campaign, especially health care and property taxes. He says not everything will get finished in one legislative session, but he vows to start fast.
The morning after former business owner Mike Braun celebrated a commanding win in the governor's race, he outlined his business plan for leading Indiana.
It's going to be my vision of being an entrepreneurial governor that's going to be conservative on the financial side, but very entrepreneurial on the problem-fixing side.
Braun calls the vision a platter of opportunity filled with kitchen table issues he campaigned on: education, housing, property taxes, and his top concern, health care reform.
It's the one that we have the worst results compared to most other states. If we get that correct, that will singly be better than what we've probably done collectively over many generations of past governors.
The 70-year-old, now leaving the U.S. Senate for the State House, says he'll take ideas from any constituent, any party. But he says the margin of victory for Republicans on Election Day gives him leverage with the legislature. In his first 90 days, he plans to tackle property taxes and look at every state agency for efficiencies and savings.
And it's not going to be hard for me and my team to discern whether it needs major overhaul, minor tune-up, or it's working well.
What about Lieutenant Governor-elect Micah Beckwith's role? The two were a forced coupling. Beckwith was not Braun's pick. And the ultra-conservative pastor and podcaster has focused more on social issues, which Braun says caused division. But both men say this political pairing works.
It's been a benefit in a way because it's kind of brought the party together.
You know, he's got the vision, I've got the energy, and you kind of bring that together, and it's really a dynamic duo.
And it's my job to make sure that the full spectrum of what being a Republican is about in this state is then going to be focused on the kitchen table issues I've been talking about.
Now, today, Braun also touched on potential economic development plans as well. He said he wants to fertilize small businesses, homegrown businesses, as opposed to attracting big corporations only. And that was a bit of a jab to current Governor Eric Holcomb, of course, and the state's Economic Development Corporation. So lots to get to.
Yes. All right. Thanks so much, Jenny, for that wrap for us today.
Well, of course, Hoosiers were closely watching the governor's race between Mike Braun, Democrat Jennifer McCormick, and Libertarian Donald Rainwater. And just after the polls closed at 6 last night, the race was quickly called for Braun. We want to head over to our Dustin Grove, who's live in the newsroom with a look at these final results. Hey, Dustin.
Hey, Karen, let's walk over here and show you why this race was called so early. So 92% of precincts reporting, so some of the numbers still coming in. But Braun has a 14-point lead over Jennifer McCormick. Some 400,000 more votes. So that's why, just because that gap was so large, the margin was so wide, the AP was comfortable calling that pretty early. Now, this is the look county by county on how people voted. So you can see, obviously, just a red wave, which was not too much of a surprise. The counties in blue are the counties that went for Jennifer McCormick. Now, I want to go over here and show you 4 years ago. So then the last election for governor in 2020, 3 counties went for the Democrat, Dr. Woody Myers: Marion County, Monroe County, and Lake County. So you can see yesterday, Democrats were able to pick up Tippecanoe County and St. Joe County. If I zoom in here to Tippecanoe County, McCormick over Braun, 50 to 46%, a difference of a couple thousand votes. And then up here in St. Joseph County, looks like McCormick over Braun, 50 to 47%, another couple thousand votes. But obviously not nearly enough to upset the state for the Democrats. So as of right now and going forward, it looks like Mike Braun and Lieutenant Governor Micah Beckwith will be moving into the State House in January.
And most statewide races were called hours ago, but Election Day results are still coming in tonight with absentee ballots to be counted.
Despite the long lines for early voting and on Election Day, our Karen Campbell found that the voter turnout specifically in Marion County was lower than it was 4 years ago.
a smooth election cycle in Marion County.
It was a secure, safe election. We had no, widespread issues.
Director of Elections Patrick Becker says there's still lots of work to be done.
We were able to tabulate over 133,000 absentee ballots yesterday on Election Day, which is the most that we've been able to do in one day in this county.
A county that saw nearly 50% voter turnout, something Becker anticipates growing to about 54% once military, overseas, mail-in ballots and Election Day arrival ballots are counted. When you compare voter turnout to nearby counties, this is what the picture looks like. More than 60% of voters headed to the polls.
In 2016 and 2020, we were ranked 42nd out of the 50 states in our voter turnout. So we don't tend to match that high of the nation as a whole.
For a number of reasons, says IU political science professor Elizabeth Benyon. Benyon says the state can do things to help boost voter turnout.
Things like same-day registration or automatic voter registration, which is an opt-out rather than an opt-in system, as well as no excuse voting by mail. Other states try that. They have higher turnout rates.
Another solution, have issues on the ballot that drive people to the polls.
We also don't have ballot initiatives like putting the issue of legalization of abortion, legalization of marijuana on the ballot, certain voter reform packages on the ballot, as they did in Michigan, drive people to the polls.
A work in progress for Marion County election workers.
And so I think there's still a big gap for us and a challenge for us as administrators to educate the public on, what it takes.
To make sure every voice is heard. Karen Campbell, 13 News.
Marion County absentee ballots must be certified and counted by next Monday.
On to other results now, dealing with school referendums.
Voters in 2 central Indiana communities said no to property tax increases to help fund their public schools. Rich Nye has the results and reaction.
Kokomo schools ask property owners for $6.1 million a year in additional revenue from property taxes. The money was targeted for enhanced academic programs, upgrades to technology, and the biggest chunk, $4 million, for staff salaries. But voters in Kokomo said no by more than a 2-to-1 margin, with 68% rejecting the referendum.
It could impact those future programs, future opportunities for students.
That was the superintendent last month on the potential impact of a failed referendum. Voters in the Twin Lakes School District in Monticello also rejected a referendum for $3.5 million a year. Superintendent Deb Metzger issued a statement that reads in part, "Without the additional funding from the referendum, we face some difficult choices. To continue serving our students effectively, we will need to make adjustments that will impact certain programs, services, and staffing levels."
We want to have the general public supporting funding for their local public schools. It's a sad state of affairs that public schools feel that they have to run a referenda just in order to make their ends meet.
The Indiana Coalition for Public Education wants the state legislature to increase funding for public schools rather than expanding voucher programs.
If we as a state value K-12 education and if we value our public schools, we need to demand that our legislature passes a budget that adequately funds our K-12 public schools, that at least keeps up with inflation, if not do better than that.
One school referendum in Indiana did pass. That was a renewal of a previously approved referendum for Lake Station schools in Lake County. Rich Nye, 13 News.
As we continue to break down final election results, just moments ago we heard Vice President Kamala Harris's concession speech. So I want to bring in University of Michigan Associate Professor Dr. Melissa Borja, Republican strategist Robert Vane, and City County Councilor Nick Roberts, a Democrat from Indianapolis. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
I'm curious to know, and I'll just open it up to you, Melissa, first. Kamala Harris underperformed in a number of the swing states that she needed to win last night. What do you think happened?
I think voters are very angry. I think Democrats have a lot to learn right now. One thing I think we need to think about is this election is not just Donald Trump winning, but Democrats losing. She got 15 million fewer votes than Joe Biden did. Democrats have a lot of things to learn from this. I will also point out, though, I don't take for granted that she conceded the race and there is a commitment to a peaceful transition. So we should not take that for granted.
Nick, do you think that Vice President Harris focused too much on social issues and not enough maybe on so-called kitchen table issues, the economy, for example?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a tough question, right? Because, we've seen a lot of attacks on our democracy, attacks on women's rights. Those are paramount issues to every Democrat right now. But I mean, at the end of the day, the economic issues win out, right? And I think that's the case in Indiana. It's the case nationwide. People are focused on inflation. They're focused on, again, education, things that really affect their family. It's difficult to say. I think we'll know more as we kind of see the results, what people really say. But obviously, if we could have done it again, we would have shaken up the strategy. But I understand why they took the strategy they did. But it looks like I think the inflation issues was the top on voters' minds for this election.
Robert, what did Republicans do right?
We went from the drive-through to D.C. I mean, it's perfect. You think about some of the things that Donald Trump did, and it seemed kind of silly, right? They got criticized as stunts. All campaigns do stunts. But in a weird way, it made him seem more relatable. Now, I don't know how, someone from Irvington can be related, to a billionaire or feel that. But Donald Trump has never lost his common touch. That comes from being on TV. It comes from being a salesman. It's simply remarkable that he is the president of the United States and that it is a Republican landslide everywhere in Indiana, in all three branches of government, or excuse me, all three levels. It's just a terrific night to be a Republican, and I'm shocked.
Let's now transition to the state of Indiana election results here. We saw the same result right in the race for president. In fact, Donald Trump had a wider margin of victory in the race for president last night than he had 4 years ago with Joe Biden. And in the race for governor, I think we have the results. I want to put those on the screen in the race for governor. Okay, so Mike Braun easily outperformed Democratic challenger Jennifer McCormick. We saw the Democratic Governors Association, this national group, pump in more than $600,000 into the McCormick campaign, which gave us an indication that they saw this as winnable. Some pollsters had moved Indiana from solid Republican to likely Republican, and yet the race for governor was one of the earliest races called last night. We have not had a Democrat governor in Indiana in more than 20 years. Nick, as a young Democrat, kind of a next generation Democratic leader in the party in Indiana, what do you think Democrats need to do to gain traction here?
So I think there's a number of factors. And first and foremost, that we knew there was a tough race going in. Statewide Indiana, it's difficult. But I think we have 2 years to rebuild as a party, right? We have 2 years until the next election, the midterm. I think about where we were 8 years ago. After 2016, we were demoralized just like we are right now. We are divided, disappointed dramatically. And we have to find a way to get on our feet and get motivated. That was when I got involved politically. It was a week after the 2016 election. I emailed the Marion County Democratic Party. I got internship, worked my way up, got involved in the party, then ran for city council 7 years later and won. And I think it takes a lot of people like that can get involved over these next 4 years to get engaged in the process. Obviously, not just to vote, but to volunteer, be involved with different campaigns. And really, I think as the campaign, we have to focus on grassroots. We'd focus on kitchen table issues like we said. We'd focus on relating to the average people. And in Indiana, we're a rural state. We have to find a way to finally turn around that tide in rural Indiana, because we are gaining in the suburbs. Last night we gained in mostly all the donut counties around Indianapolis. But we have to finally take the tide to rural Indiana and also get turnout in Indianapolis to win it in statewide.
And Robert, what do Republicans here have to do to keep this supermajority and a solid red state solid red?
Provide the same strong leadership we've been providing. Eric Holcomb, Todd Houston, the list goes on and on. Rod Bray, the Senate Majority Leader. Deliver on issues. Give the people what they want. Be someone who listens, who travels, who goes to someplace, Clinton, Indiana, name it, and says, what's the problem? What are you looking for? Why do you want to stay in this state? What do you mean you want to go to college someplace else? And since Mitch Daniels and Jim Kittle revolutionized this state's politics 20 plus years ago, that's how we've won.
Melissa, as the independent political scientist here, what do you make?
Well, I think the story of this election in Indiana is not just what happens with the governor's race, but what happens in the state house. And so there's at least one race that hasn't been called House District 62. I know Indiana Democrats really hope to break the supermajority. That clearly didn't happen this time around, but I think they're chipping away. So I would keep an eye on the results of that race as they come in, and it might be an indication of some hope that Democrats could have, but we'll see.
Okay, all right. And finally, I learned that we are in very intelligent company tonight. We knew that already, but we have two Brain Game alumni here. Nick, the last time you were here, you were on the Brain Game panel, and Robert, you too, just a few years before.
October 16th, 1982. But the PhD is.
That may take the cake. I think you would have done pretty well. Thank you all for being here.